Chapter 2. When the human came aboard while the repair crew were busy patching holes in the red spark made by the Zinni teardrops, Captain Bonnie Red did the courteous thing and invited him directly to her ready room to converse away from prying eyes and ears. After he seated himself across from her, she leaned back in her chair and put her feet up on the desk. "You are brave, human, Captain Reginald Archer. 3 ships against that many Zinni is bold." "I think 1 versus 12 is braver. Hell of a fight, Delamison, Captain Bonnie. You kept them working on you for at least a few hours. Fine work, using the asteroids themselves to compensate for the lack of shields," he said, and reached into his front pocket, drawing out a long stick. "Do y'all have anything like this?" he asked. "My crew and I have had practice. We were all once scouts for the military, mostly. A handful of the warrior class, but mostly of the scout ranks. And I do not know what that is," she answered, and he held it out to her. She took it between her fingers and brought it to her nose, taking a deep whiff. It had a strong, flavorful odor. "It's something we call a cigar. We make it out of a plant we call tobacco. It's banned for commercial sale now, but you can grow it privately and give it as a gift. My family has been growing and making those for generations. I still grow and roll my own as a hobby. I don't smoke 'em much anymore, but I do enjoy one after a fight." "Smoke? You set it on fire?" she asked and cocked her head at him. Her ears flopped down as she looked from the little brown cylinder to him and back again. "Sort of, if you don't mind," he asked and held his hand out again. She nodded and gave it back. He then took a small silver box and flicked out a little puncher, poked a hole in the end, and after that the narrow end was in his mouth. He flicked one side of the cylinder and a flame sparked to life. "What?" she nearly said, and when she saw that he was completely at ease with inhaling and exhaling smoke, her briefly stiff tail relaxed and her bristled fur relaxed. "You are a smoke-drinking species?" Bonnie asked and blinked her eyes, as if to clear them of the impossible. "No, it's poison, but slow poison, and what it gives you we can cure. But it's such a delicious poison it's hard to care. Especially out here." Reginald pointed to the window into the void. "A million ways to die out here in an instant. A million more to die slow. The one way that won't kill you for 40 years or so, even if you do it almost every day and do nothing about it, that's not in range of my sensory array." Bonnie's estimation of human recklessness began to rise steadily. "But we don't really call it drinking. I think they did a long time ago, but it's just smoking now," he said and puffed a smoke ring out of his lips a moment later. "Drinking? Now that's something else entirely," he said, and the shift in his tone, along with the way his lips went up a little on the side of his mouth, suggested he meant something out of the ordinary. "Almost all species need some kind of liquid sustenance, even mine," she said matter-of-factly, while the full-bodied flavor of the smoke made its way into her nostril. "Oh, so you don't quite know what I mean," Reginald answered. "Right then, so here's what I suggest. My ships report that the Zinni had a half-scavenged freighter nearby. Normally, we'd confiscate the cargo, but it looks like you're in a spot." "A bad one," Bonnie admitted. "Interstellar law dictates that scavenged rights go to the ones who find the scavenge. We only found the Zinni and got a near hit on their outpost because they detected you and decided 2 prizes were better than 1. We'll take the Zinni teardrop ships, but you can salvage the remnants of the freighter as long as you take responsibility for the dead. That way, I don't have to waste time on it myself. That should cover your repair, refitting, and refueling. What do you say?" Captain Bonnie Red's ears went down. "Why? What are you getting out of this?" "Getting out of extra work for one thing. If we recover that ship, some do-nothing politico type will do God knows what with it. And even if they don't, dealing with alien corpses is still an uncertain business for us. Besides," he said and leaned a little forward in his chair, "space would be a dull, dry place if it lost all the captains who were willing to go 12-to-1 odds. Call it a favor from one captain to another." "Then, yes, I accept." Bonnie nodded emphatically. It seemed mad in her eyes, but the wild disregard and clearly in the moment thinking was so tantalizing that she couldn't bring it in herself to resist a favorable answer. If you are ever stranded, bargain for a favor from the Red Spark, and if we're still sailing the void, that bargain will have worth. Fantastic! Now can I offer you one of these? He asked and reached into his pocket to draw out another cigar. Bonnie cocked her head. If it is not rude to refuse, I would. She tapped her nose. This is very powerful, and a little of that odor is fine, but much more would be too much. Fair enough, but then if I may, could I offer you some of my personal stash of rum? Piratey as you all seem to be, I can't help but think you'd take to the stuff, Reginald suggested, and Bonnie cocked her head for the second time that hour. What is a pirate and what is rum? She asked, and the human captain began to chuckle knowingly. Oh, Captain Bonnie, you and your crew should join us on my flagship's wreck deck. We'll do a pirate movie marathon for you and introduce you to rum, bourbon, beer, tequila, and everything else you can't even think of. I'll personally give you a glass for every Zenny ship that went firecracker today. I accept your hospitality as well, then. Once repairs are complete, we'll dock with your ship, she replied with an affirming nod. It's a date, he said, and clapped his hands together once before offering one out to her. She imitated his gesture and clasped his outstretched hand with only the briefest of hesitation and doubt. What exactly am I getting myself into? She wondered as the minutes stretched on from that moment.